The sun has barely risen. You step outside. Arms stretch, lungs fill, eyes half open, and then your blood goes cold. The horizon is gone, replaced by something moving. 10,000 horses, 10,000 men coming to invade your city, your family, your entire world. What do you do? Every ancient civilization in history gave the same answer. Build a wall. The Romans built walls, the Chinese built walls, the Persians built walls. Every single one eventually fell. But one lost civilization in ancient Turkey looked at every broken wall, every conquered city in ancient history, and chose differently. No walls, no army, no battle. They picked up their children, their grain, and their animals, and they vanished. 20,000 people living 280 feet underground. No sunlight, no exit, no way out unless they chose it, for months. This isn't fiction. This isn't a bunker built by a paranoid government. This is something ancient humans engineered by hand over 3,000 years ago in the middle of Turkey, and nobody knew it existed until a man chased his chickens through a crack in his basement wall. Here is what nobody tells you about the grand underground city of Derinkuyu. This city was not built out of fear. It was built out of a knowledge so precise, so terrifying, so completely forgotten by modern civilization that the people who built it chose to carve it into solid rock rather than risk losing it. They knew something was coming, something that had already happened once before, something that wiped the surface of the earth so clean that the only people who survived were the ones who went deep enough underground that the sky couldn't touch them. Your history books call this the ancient world. Your brain calls it home. By the end of this video, you will understand why. How does an entire civilization disappear underground and stay hidden for 700 years? Nevşehir province, central Turkey. A man swings a sledgehammer into his basement wall. A crack opens. His chickens vanish into it. He follows. Behind that wall, not a hidden room, not a forgotten cellar, a hand-carved stone passage, descending into total darkness, going down and further down until it opens into something that stops him completely. A city, 18 stories, 280 feet straight into the earth, built to house 20,000 people, with their livestock, food stores, schools, wine presses, churches, and freshwater wells, for months without surfacing. It had been there the entire time, sealed, silent, waiting under an ordinary town in ordinary Turkey. They built it to be invisible. Over 600 hidden entrances, concealed behind walls, tucked under bushes, buried inside the courtyards of ordinary people's homes. This city didn't just hide its people, it practiced disappearing. Think about that for a second. 600 entrances, none of them visible, an entire metropolis engineered so completely that a passing army could march directly over it, horses, weapons, thousands of soldiers, and never know 20,000 people were breathing beneath their boots. This is Derinkuyu, located in the ancient region of Cappadocia, a volcanic plateau in central Turkey where millions of years of eruptions left behind a soft, carvable rock called volcanic tuff, hard enough to hold its shape for 3 millennia through earthquakes, soft enough to carve with iron tools by human hands. The ancient humans here didn't stumble onto this geology, they understood it deeply, completely, at a level that took modern science decades to decode. But how do you carve an 18-story city underground with no computers, no engineering degrees, no modern tools, and have it still be standing 3,000 years later? Modern engineers scanned Derinkuyu with the most advanced geological software available. What they found embarrassed them. Ancient humans had already solved every single problem modern engineers use computers to calculate: exactly where the rock would crack under pressure, exactly where the ceiling would collapse, exactly how thick a wall needs to be to survive an earthquake. No software, no degrees, no blueprints, just knowledge so precise it built something that is still standing today, after multiple earthquakes, 3,000 years later. These were not primitive cave diggers scraping at rock with desperation. This was applied geological mastery, passed down across generations, refined across centuries, executed by ancient humans who understood the Earth at a level we are only now beginning to quantify. But understanding how they built it only creates a larger question. How did 20,000 people actually live down there for months at a time without going mad, without starving, without suffocating? This is where ancient human history stops being an archaeology story and becomes something far more intimate. Level 1. 10 meters deep. Livestock. Oxen, Arabian horses, carved stone mangers, and tethering posts packed into wide, high-ceiling stables, not placed here by accident. The animals' collective body heat rose upward through the rock floor, warming every human level beneath them through winter. Their waste and gases vented upward through 52 major ventilation shafts and over 15,000 smaller air channels, a convective thermodynamic cycle that swept smoke, odor, and carbon dioxide out of the city continuously. The air stayed breathable 280 feet underground for months. Level 2. 20 meters down, home. Families, bedrooms carved directly into rock faces, communal kitchens with ceilings still stained black from centuries of hearth smoke, and a school. A real school, barrel-vaulted ceiling, carved stone classrooms, where children sat and continued their education while armies moved across the ground above their heads. Level 3, 30 meters. Food production. Wine presses, oil presses, massive ceramic amphoras packed with grain, clay-lined storage pits that kept food cool, dry, and pest-free without refrigeration. Water came from sealed underground wells, deliberately and ingeniously disconnected from the surface so no invader above could detect them or poison them. The primary shaft plunged 55 meters. It circulated air and secured fresh water simultaneously. One structure, two survival functions. For sanitation, residents used sealed clay jars for waste. Bodies of the dead were moved to designated decomposition chambers treated with chemicals to prevent disease and odor spreading through the tunnels. All of this by torchlight. Olive oil lamps burning near smokeless through the narrow corridors. Mushrooms likely cultivated for nutrition. Research published in 2025 by Indiana University Indianapolis found the ventilation shafts functioned as acoustic communication channels. Inhabitants could relay emergency instructions instantly across all 18 floors during a crisis. Level 5, 50 meters, a cathedral. Rock cut, cruciform, 24 meters long, 9 meters wide, 3.5 meter ceiling. A baptismal pool. Confessionals, tombs carved directly into the walls so the dead could remain beside the living. Level 8, 85 meters, the deepest accessible point. Emergency bunkers, the primary ventilation terminus, and direct access to the subterranean aquifer, the final guarantee that no siege, no matter how long, could cut off their water. They had shops, taverns, wineries, schools, churches, a complete civilization that happened to exist 280 feet below the surface. Derinkuyu was not a panic shelter. It was a deliberate, engineered parallel world, a fully functioning municipal ecosystem designed for one non-negotiable purpose: total survival. The question of why they needed it cuts directly into the oldest, most fundamental force in human nature. Even if it was livable, why does a civilization voluntarily bury itself underground? Not once, but repeatedly, across 3,000 years of human history. The conventional answer is military threat, and it is correct, partially. Early humans in this region faced a relentless rotation of existential dangers. The Hittites first excavated these chambers around 1800 to 1500 BCE. The Phrygians, an advanced Indo-European civilization, massively expanded the city in the 8th century BCE. Then came the Greeks, Romans, Byzantines. Early Christians descended into these tunnels to escape Roman persecution in the 1st century AD, practicing their faith in a rock-cut cathedral 50 meters underground rather than be executed on the surface. During the Arab-Byzantine wars of the 7th and 8th centuries, as Muslim Arab dynasties pushed westward through Anatolia in wave after wave of military campaigns, the population of Cappadocia went down. During the Greco-Turkish War of 1919 to 1922, the city filled again. The last recorded use was within living memory. The city was finally abandoned only after the 1923 population exchange between Greece and Turkey, when the local Greek Christian community was gone and the entrances, one by one, were slowly forgotten, until a homeowner's chickens found one. For 3,000 years, across empires, religions, wars, and centuries, the same response, the same signal: go down. Close the doors. Wait. Derinkuyu didn't need to defeat its enemies. It needed to outlast them. And for 3 millennia, it did. But armies and invasions explain 10 stories. They do not explain 18. So what was Derinkuyu actually built to defeat? This is where it stops being a refuge and starts being something else entirely. The tunnels were carved to exactly 160 centimeters high. deliberately, precisely. Any soldier wearing armor has to crouch. Any army has to move single file. The moment an invading force enters Derinkuyu, their numbers become worthless. 10,000 soldiers become a single crouching man moving slowly through the dark, completely blind, with no idea what is waiting 3 feet ahead. The residents knew every corner, every turn, every trap. The invaders knew nothing. And then there were the doors, circular stone wheels, each one carved from a single solid block of andesite, up to 500 kilograms. Rollable into position by one person from the inside. Once sealed, immovable from the outside, no lever, no battering ram, no siege weapon designed for open battlefield warfare could breach them. Each floor had its own door, meaning the city could be sealed level by level, isolating an invasion to a single floor while everyone below continued living normally. But here is the detail nobody talks about. The stone doors had a hole in the center, not for a handle, a spear slot. A defender could seal a 500-kilogram door with one hand and drive a spear blindly through the gap with the other, in total darkness, while the invader on the other side could see nothing, move nowhere, and retreat back through a tunnel where another defender was already waiting. Derinkuyu didn't just protect people from armies, it turned the very concept of numerical military advantage completely upside down. And there is still more. The water wells were engineered to be controlled from below, not above. Lower floors could cut water supply to upper floors during a breach, denying invaders access to the one resource that makes a siege winnable. The city also connected via a 9-kilometer underground tunnel to its sister city Cappadocia, meaning if Derinkuyu was somehow fully compromised, 20,000 people had a hidden escape corridor running nearly 6 miles underground that no surface army could follow. This was not defensive thinking. This was total strategic domination. From underground, Derinkuyu was not a hiding place. It was a weapons system, an entire city engineered so that the moment an enemy entered it, they had already lost. Every tunnel, every door, every spear slot, every water valve was a calculated advantage held exclusively by the people who built it. This city didn't survive invasions. It made invasions pointless. So if Derinkuyu could neutralize any army that entered it, why did they need 18 stories? Why go deeper than any military threat required? Because the threat they were preparing for at the deepest levels wasn't an army. It had no soldiers, no swords, no siege weapons. It came from the sky, and it had already happened once before. There is an ancient text called the Avesta, one of the oldest religious scriptures in human history, written down thousands of years before Derinkuyu was rediscovered. Inside it, a god appears before a king with a single warning. A great freezing winter is coming, one that will kill everything on the surface. He commands the king to build an underground city. Bring your people, bring your animals, bring your food and your fire. Bring the seeds of every living thing. Go underground and survive the freezing of the world. He specifies the layout in precise detail. 9 streets in the largest section, 6 in the middle, 3 in the smallest. A self-sustaining light system, a sealed interior where a year feels like a single day. Now hold that description against Derinkuyu. Tiered layout, livestock on the upper level, agricultural processing in the middle sections, a constant sealed interior temperature of 10 to 15 degrees Celsius maintained year-round regardless of what the surface was doing, freshwater secured from below, disconnected from the sky, designed to sustain 20,000 people not for weeks, but for however long the surface took to become survivable again. The match is not loose. It is architectural. The ancient text was not mythology. It was not allegory. It may have been the most important survival manual ever written, encoding the memory of people who had already lived through the worst thing the sky ever did to the surface of the earth. Now comes the most sensational part of the story. What was the event that occurred around 12,800 years ago that didn't just end kingdoms? It ended the sky. Geological and ice core evidence from multiple continents points to a catastrophic impact event now called the Younger Dryas, a global winter. Ash and debris in the stratosphere blocking sunlight across the entire planet, surface temperatures collapsing, years, potentially decades, without reliable growing seasons. River systems freezing, megafauna dying in mass extinction events across North America, Europe, and Asia simultaneously. This wasn't a bad harvest. This wasn't a regional drought. This was the sky going dark. and it stayed dark long enough that the civilizations living on the surface during that period, the ones without a plan, simply ceased to exist. The early humans who survived didn't survive through strength. They didn't survive through weapons or warfare or the size of their armies. They survived by going underground deep enough that the collapse of the surface world above them became irrelevant. And the ones who came after them, the Hittites, the Phrygians, the Byzantines, who kept expanding Derinkuyu across 3,000 years, they may not have fully understood why the template they inherited was 18 stories deep, but they kept building downward anyway. Because the knowledge that you needed to go that deep had been encoded into the structure itself. So what does all of this mean for you, right now, with your slightly too fast heartbeat and your inability to feel safe even when every measurable indicator says you are safe? Here is the evolutionary mismatch made fully visible. The people of Derinkuyu lived in a world where the ancient brain was not a disorder, where hypervigilance was not a clinical condition requiring management. They didn't suffer from anxiety. They converted anxiety into architecture. The same signal that sends you spiraling at 3 a.m. sent ancient humans to roll 1,000-pound stone doors shut, pack grain into ceramic jars, and carve ventilation systems into solid rock 280 feet underground. Same brain, same signal, completely different environment.